Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host TC, and today I will be reviewing the Roam Service Dog. This board is equipped with Roam's free the ride camber profile, so what that means is you're going to have camber under this back foot, pretty much going all the way until the middle of the board where it becomes flat, and then right outside the inserts it goes up into a rocker. So what that's going to do is it's going to give you all that drive, power, and pop off the back foot with the ease of entry in and out of turns and all that float you're looking to get out of that giant nose. This board comes in a 148, 153, and a 157. I rode this board at Copper Mountain where the conditions were definitely stormboarding. We got about 4 inches of snow the day before, and it just pretty much kept snowing throughout the day. Got really windy and pretty much progressed as the day went. So in the beginning, pretty much everything blew to one side of the mountain, so on the other side it was pretty bare bones. There was even some dirt spots. Once you got over to the other side, it was knee deep at some points, and pretty much the lower you were on the mountain, the better the snow was. If you were up at the top, it was all blown off and it looked like it hadn't snowed in weeks. I used my Ride Fuse boots and Jones Mercury bindings. If we're talking overall flex on this board, you could say it comes in at the middle of the road, but it's definitely going to be a directional flex where this tail section is definitely going to be stiffer than the nose just because of that rocker and the flat zone in the middle. That's why. I will say though, it isn't as soft as you would expect. For this being such a big nose, having so much rocker that goes into a flap, I expected it to be super loose and chattery, which it really doesn't. And I mean, that'll pretty much translate into the stability portion where it felt pretty stable actually. A little bit lively, but nothing too crazy where it's vibrating, putting your legs to sleep, anything like that. It handled really well on those flatter sections and those fresh push piles. It just went right through them. As the terrain got a little bit steeper and a little bit more technical, it did get bounced around a little bit, but if you just keep it to that more mellow, surfy terrain, it's gonna be super stable for you and you aren't gonna have a problem. The way I describe it is it feels like a big boat going through little waves. Ollieing this board was actually better than I expected. Even in that fresh snow, it handled really well. Where normally on a shifted board like this, you don't really have that much of tail to work with, where the backseat camber on this actually does help load up and spring. It didn't take too much to pop off of this thing, and honestly you still are going to be using a lot of your back foot on it, but just keep in mind that tail's still going to help. When you are ollieing off of this thing, whether it be fresh snow or smooth groomers, it does have some landing gear to it. In the fresh snow, I did land back seat a few times and I really didn't have any problems with it. That tail sunk in, caught me, and pretty much slammed me back down. If you do land a little bit too back seat, it's not going to be able to save you because of how short it is, so keep that in mind. If you land bolts on it, it's going to be stable in that fresh snow because of how long and how big this nose is. It really wants to float there. So popping an ollie isn't that bad, whether it be just fresh powder or groomers, it's going to feel nice and stable. Since you're here, you might as well like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of the content we have coming out. Buttering on this board, it's definitely going to have two different feelings because of that directional flex where you don't have much of a surface area to work on with this stiffer tail. You're leaning back. It's got a smaller sweet spot that really doesn't flex too much, so I would say probably don't do that too much. The nose is really where it excels, especially in fresh powder. You throw a front one into a nose butter there, and this thing just holds. It flexes right where that rocker meets that flat zone and just wants to keep you there. It will give you a little bit pop on the way out, but nothing too crazy, so just expect a little bit of help, but you'll still be able to make it around in fresh snow. When you're buttering it on flat groomers, I would say don't lean as much into this nose where it might get a little loose on you, so just keep it a little bit more mellow and you'll be fine. I would recommend keeping this board on those more mellow runs because that's where it excels in the carving department. It feels nice and smooth getting edge to edge on those quick carves. Even for how big this nose is, it's still pretty easy to turn over. On those medium and long carves, as long as the groomer is nice and smooth or you're in nice fresh snow, it just gets over for you. It's gonna hold and feel nice and stable. It's when you get into those more aggressive terrain or those super hard mogo fields, it just gets bounced around. It's not where it wants to be really. So keep that in mind. But when you Euro carve this thing, feel free to get nice and low, drag that hand, it's super fun. Rider in mind. This rider is going to be somebody that likes to hit those tight trees, that low angle pow that nobody else can get to, or they just need a board to have a really good time on it in the spring and just slash some slush around. If you're not sick of us and are looking for another way to support us, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. Sure, I could explain what it is here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. I actually like this board. It took a little bit for me to actually start liking it. When I first got there riding with Avran, I was like, man, this board sucks, dude. Like, we're going to like this steep, crusty shit. And then he's like, all right, let's go over here. We went over to Union Meadows and it got much better from there on out in those tight trees. And I was like, okay, I see where this thing excels. But overall, fun board. I understand why they have it. And honestly, if you're looking for that like volume shifted party board, I would look no further. Comparable boards, the Ride Psychocandy, the Telos Backslash, and the Arbor Satori. Recommended bindings, the Rome 390 Boss, the Union Force, and the Yes Uninc. This has been my review for the Rome Service Dog. If you're still looking for a volume shifted party board, why don't you go check out some of the reviews for the comparable boards.